Hey guys, going to shift gears a little bit today, and we're going to work on recognizing lines of symmetry. So this may be familiar to you, may not be. I'm not exactly sure. So go ahead and make this the title of your next page of your math notebook. Leave a lot of space. There's kind of a lot of like drawing to do today, more than there is really any writing. And when you're all set, unpause and give me your concentration on the I-dos. Alright, so a line of symmetry looks like this. These are really common lines of symmetry. And the way they work is they're a line, they really look like a line segment. These should be lines of symmetry. That you can draw through a figure, so they drew this through this square. And a line of symmetry does two things. So it cuts it exactly in half, which this does, exactly half the rectangles on this side of the line of symmetry and exactly half on this side of the line of symmetry. And the other thing it does is, if you folded it along the line, then everything kind of matches up. Like if I were to fold this over the line, this side would match this side exactly. Like this corner would go to there, this corner would go to there, and everything would lay perfectly on top of this. Same thing here on this star. First thing, if you look real carefully at it, the line of symmetry, let's make it a line instead of a line segment of symmetry, would cut it exactly in half. And that's not enough. It can't just cut it in half. It also, this would fold perfectly over to there. This would fold perfectly over to there. This would fold perfectly over there. It's like a mirror image. This side is exactly the same as this side, and if you folded them, they would lay right on top of each other. Same thing on this one. This is half the triangle, and this is half the triangle. And if I were to fold the figure over the line, this would go here, and everything would match up perfectly. It would fold it in half, and I would only see that if I folded it. Both halves would perfectly match each other. And same thing on the arrow. So one easy misconception is that lines of symmetry have to be this way. They've got to go kind of in that up and down vertical direction. They do not. So let me show you some more examples. These are lines of symmetry as well. And you'll notice some of them are vertical, like these two, but not all of them. I could do, say on this heart looking thing, if you look, that line of symmetry right there, half the figure is here, half the figure is here, and if I folded it, everything would still match up. That over the line, that would go to there, top of the kind of hump would go there, and everything would fold perfectly on top of the other side. So that's a line of symmetry as well. The circle definitely cuts it in half. And if I folded it over that circle, everything on this side would lay perfectly on top of that side. And if I folded it, it's like it would look just like that side. You wouldn't see anything over here. And same thing here. This one's trickier to tell, but it's half up here, half down here. And beyond that, if you were to fold it over that line, now it's a line, that corner would be on top of that corner would be on top of that corner, and everything would match up perfectly. All right, a few more examples of lines of symmetry. Some can have more than one. So like if you look at this letter H, this is a line of symmetry because I could fold it this way, and sort of this whole thing would go on this whole thing, and everything would match perfectly. Or you also instead could fold it over this line of symmetry, and this would lay perfectly on top of this and this. And if you folded it, it would still fold perfectly in half and perfectly on top of each other. The flower wouldn't matter if I folded it through this petal, or through this petal, or through this petal, or even through the middle. There's lots of different ways I can fold it and still have a line of symmetry. Like if I use this one, it's not a very good tracing, right here. Then like this one would go on top of that, this one would go on top of that, and this would go on top of that, and everything would still lay perfectly on top of each other. All right, let me show you some not lines of symmetry that can be confusing. Here are a few tricky ones. This is not a line of symmetry. Looks like it would be because it really does cut it in half. This is exactly half of the figure, and this is exactly half of the figure. But the difference is, if I folded this part over the line, it wouldn't match up on the other side. I would end up like over here, and this part would match up, and this would only go over to here. And so I wouldn't, if you imagine folding this side on top of this side, if I kind of draw that side over here, and then I'd have like a short side here, it would look kind of like this. If I folded this over there, and I would have this part sticking out, and I would have this part underneath, it didn't match. So this is not a line of symmetry, because even though the half and half part works, it doesn't fold perfectly on top of the other side. Same thing here. This is a line of symmetry because I could fold that over there, and it would look like this. But if you fold it diagonally, looks like it should be, because again, it's still half and half, but it's not a line of symmetry even though it's half and half, because if I folded this over that line of symmetry, I'd end up here, and it would look kind of like this if you folded it. They wouldn't perfectly match. That bottom part would have a piece sticking out, and this top part would have kind of this piece here sticking out. So those are not lines of symmetry. All right, so just because a line cuts it in half doesn't mean it's a line of symmetry. All right, open up your notebook. Let's do a few together. A lot of drawing for you to do today. So here's some really basic examples. A definition would be good. Line of symmetry does two things. One, divides the figure in half, and two, the two sides are mirror images or would fold perfectly on top of each other. And they're one of those things, once you get used to seeing them, you just are used to seeing them. It's not something you have to memorize a definition for, really. You get used to seeing. So like if I look at the heart, this line, they should be lines of symmetry, not line segments of symmetry. Definitely folds it in half, so it meets the first requirement. And the two sides are mirror image. If this side looked in the mirror and saw this side, it would be perfect. If I folded it over, that would go there. Everything would go to its perfect spot on the other side. So that's a line of symmetry. Triangle, same thing. Half the triangle, half the triangle. If I folded this, this side would go over to there, and the top would go over to there. And it's mirror images, or everything would be perfectly done on both sides. The A, same thing, line of symmetry. If you were to fold it over, you would, fold this side over there. All of this would go there. All of this would go there. All of this would go there. And if you folded it over, what I really imagine is, would it perfectly look just like the other half if I folded it? Like if that was all gone, if I folded that to the other side, it would look just like this. Both parts of the A would be right there, and it would perfectly look like half of it. Okay? Other examples, I don't want you to think that you have to fold it up and down. They don't have to be vertical. So like all of these figures, they have a line of symmetry. It's just not vertical. and that's okay. I could still fold that up there and be perfect. Fold that over there and be perfect. Fold that over there and be perfect. Still a line of symmetry, even though it's not vertical. If you want to pause and draw those, go ahead. And last but not least, some things have more than one line of symmetry, and that's okay. For instance, the H, I can draw a line of symmetry up and down and fold it that way. Or fold it, put a line of symmetry this way, and fold the bottom up, and it'll still be a mirror image and still be on top of each other. The X works the same way. If I did the horizontal one, this would go on top of this, and this would go on top of this. Or if I did the vertical one, this would go on top of this, and this would go on top of this. And all of these figures over here have more than one line of symmetry too. There's different places I can draw that line and still get the same result. All right, if you need some more time to pause and do those, please do. And then the last thing I want to show you is some non-examples. And here are 3 possible ones. So if you look at these carefully, so this one, I think kind of obviously, this triangle could have a line of symmetry, but not here. If I fold this part over, it obviously doesn't mirror image match up here. It would just kind of be right there. And that's it. So that's a line, and it goes through a figure, but it's not a line of symmetry. We could have probably drawn a real one like here, if I were to draw it right. But it does not have that one that it is. That's definitely not a line of symmetry. The Z's, so tricky ones are ones like this, where you look at this and, well, it seems like it is because half the Z is perfectly on each side. But, so it meets one of the kind of 2 requirements of this. But the problem with it is it doesn't mirror image line up. It doesn't fold over perfectly. Like if I fold this over the line of symmetry, it's going to be out here by it's not going to be on top of this. It's going to be kind of in the wrong place. And if I fold this over here, it's only going to go to there, and all this isn't going to have a mirror image. So that is a line that cuts it in half, but it is not a line of symmetry. And same thing here. This does cut it in half, but it's not a line of symmetry because if you fold over that line, this would end up here, and this would end up here, and it just wouldn't match up right. This is one I may be able to draw. If I did the fold here, let's see, it would kind of look like, let me get a new color. It would kind of look like this. I would get that. This would fold up to there. This would fold up to there. And I just wouldn't have I don't quite have a line of symmetry because I end up with this part that's not covering anything and this part that doesn't have a mirror image either. So it's kind of close, but it does cut it in half, but it's not a line of symmetry. So that is how you recognize a line of symmetry. Tomorrow we'll draw lines of symmetry. Tomorrow I just want you to know whether one is or is not one when you see it. Once you feel like you've got a good handle on this, if these make sense to you, you're all set. See you tomorrow.